Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Wrassingh Show. And this episode is unlike any other because today we are being joined by not just one of the greatest pro wrestlers ever, but also somebody that every single upcoming generation of wrestlers should aspire to be like. 6'1", 213 pounds, three-time WWE Tag Team Champion, TNA King of the Mountain Champion, Lucha Underground Trios Champion, the first ever Global Force Nexgen Champion, and SFA Champion. I am extremely excited to present to you the extremely talented wrestler and inspirational human being, PJ Black. PJ, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, and thank you for that wonderful intro. That was awesome.
You deserve all the wonderful intros in the world that you can get, PJ. First of all, congratulations on your Silver Jubilee year. It's 2022. It marks 25 years since you first started your career as a pro wrestler. Even more if you take into account all the stuff that you've done outside of being a wrestler, the refereeing and everything you've done in the industry. It's crazy. Time flies.
It does. That's so funny that you bring that up because I was actually thinking that last night. I was thinking, like, what was the exact date? I believe it was March 1st. So March 1st, it'll be 25 years. But then I was thinking that's when I started my wrestling career. I think I had like 2 or 3 matches when I was 8, 10, and 11 in front of thousands of people. I mean, that counts. But I mean, I wasn't a professional. I didn't get paid for it. But I mean, I guess that's where it started. I guess I've just always been doing this, man.
That is incredible, PJ. And anyone who looks at you right now and, has seen your recent matches, I mean, they instantly know that you are right now at the very peak of your career. So, it's been 25 years. But from the inside, how much do you feel has it been? How long has it been from the inside?
I mean, a lifetime, right? I watched my dad wrestle like growing up, and I used to travel the road with him. I used to go all over. I just couldn't travel internationally with him, but he used to travel international. And back in the day, there wasn't YouTube. You couldn't like go online and look for what your favorite wrestler or a move or anything, So I had to wait till my dad got back from overseas to bring me VHS tapes so I could study, the wrestling that's happening around the world because every country has its own style. But now we have YouTube and we have the internet, and it just makes life so much easier.
Absolutely. And people say when things are easy, you take them for granted, but when they're not, you really invest into it, and it shows the dedication that you have, which you definitely did since a very early, life. And since we're talking about your wrestling journey, PJ, let's talk about the very beginning. So, as you mentioned, your dad was a wrestler, a promoter, and not a lot of people know this, but you were born into a wrestling dynasty yourself. You are a third generation wrestler, I believe. Your grandfather, too, was a boxer, a wrestler. As you mentioned, your honorable father, a wrestler, a promoter. So can you tell us something, about your childhood? Was it always since the very beginning full of wrestling? How big was wrestling a part of it?
Oh, it was a massive part of wrestling. In the 70s, 80s, early 90s, not a lot of people know this, but the wrestling territory in South Africa was pretty big. It was like an unofficial territory. Like in the US, you'd go to New York for a couple of months or a year, and then you'd go to Texas. This was before Vince McMahon monopolized the whole game. So South Africa was kind of like an unofficial territory. So, I grew up talking to guys from a young age. I saw Andre the Giant. I saw Hogan travel to South Africa in the 80s. It was an amazing time. At the time, I didn't realize how lucky I was. In the 90s, once I started breaking into the business, I was like, wow, I actually learned from a lot of people, and I've managed to connect with a lot of, high profile performers around the world. I was really, really lucky, especially being stuck in a third world country in South Africa. But yeah, what a journey it's been.
That's incredible. And I've heard that you not only did you see Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant perform in front of your eyes, but you actually saw them job in front of your eyes, which is, something unheard of. Did you ever get a chance to get up and close with them as a child?
I did. I wish I had pictures of that, but I was so young that it was like a faint memory. When I was older and once I started watching it on TV, I was like, wait a minute, that was the dude. That's the guy.
Incredible. So, we know that you were born in wrestling business, that, you realized how lucky you were later on. But when was it? When was that moment when you actually fell in love with professional wrestling?
I mean, I was in love with it from day one. The day I decided that this is what I was going to do the rest of my life, I will never forget it. I was sitting on the couch. I was playing, what was it? Do you remember the Sega Mega Drive game? It was Monday Night Raw.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was playing that game, and I was playing with my aunt, and I was like, I'm going to do this as a job one day. And I was 8 years old. I remember that vividly.
Look at that. When I was 8 years old, I said I'm going to be an astronaut, and look what I'm doing right now. So you basically
similar.
Since your childhood, and it's great. Not a lot of kids can say it proudly that what I dreamed to be as a kid, I actually became that. Incredible, PJ. Incredible. So you started as a referee. You were wrestling at a very early age. You started as a referee too, and then you trained to become a wrestler. You wrestled in South Africa, in Europe for a few years, and you basically continued to follow your dreams. And ultimately, you became the first ever South African wrestler to sign with the WWE, the largest pro wrestling company in the world. As you mentioned earlier, a third world country, South Africa, all the way to the WWE in the USA. That must have been very, very hard. Can you tell us something about the journey? How full of obstacles was it? Did you ever have second thoughts?
It was very hard, but that's what I always wanted to do. So I didn't even have any second thoughts. I got rid of everything at the time too. So I lived in Europe for 5 years, and long story short, I got kicked out. So I went back to South Africa for a year or two, and I gave myself 3 years. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna study tape, go to the gym 2-3 times a day, go to the ring, just work on my craft and trying to get a contract somewhere, like no one's ever made it out of South Africa, and my mom was like, no one's ever made it. So what makes you think you can make it? And my way of thinking is the opposite. I'm like, nobody's made it, so I'm going to be the first. Like in my mind, I was going to be the first, no matter what happened. And I got signed. It took them like 8 to 10 months to get my work papers, to get me a work papers for the US. You know how that goes. And that 8 months was just amazing. I was a personal trainer at a gym, and I was just like still working, but not really caring about life, still like working out every single day, but also partying, because I was like, yeah, I'm moving to the US. I got to Florida where the FCW was at the time, which just got rebranded to NXT, I guess. But it was awesome, because here I was in a brand new country, wrestling every day. I had no bills to pay. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have a car. Nothing. Like, people would pick me up. I would go train, go to the show, go train, go to the gym, go to the show. That to me was living the dream.
Incredible. But a lot of people don't realize this. You mentioned paperwork, and you mentioned being kicked out of Europe, which basically rang the bell in my head. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you're coming from another country, especially a third world country, right, you get on, it's hard to get visas. I mean, I myself have been on student visas, on tourist visas, so I understand it's not easy. So how did you manage to get the paperwork done for Europe? When you were working the indies in Europe, how did you go about all of that?
So if you just finished school, or just pre or post college, for most third world countries, they have this visa option. It's called a working holiday maker, where you're allowed to like backpack through certain countries and work a certain amount of hours to pay for your travel. So I packed a backpack when I was 18, left the country, and started working odd jobs here and there. I think I started working at TGI Fridays for like 3 years to pay off my studies, because I ended up going to school because I needed, because that visa was only for 2 years. So I was like, how can I get another visa? So
right.
You can get a student visa, right, if you go study something. So I just signed up at the local college for a course. I think it was like graphic design or like web design or something. Paid the course so I can get the visa, got another year visa. But then I wanted to stay some more, because wrestling was just taking off. So I was like, man, what else am I going to study? So I just started studying a bunch of stuff. But I never went to class. And after like a year, I studied sports science, and I got my degree and everything. And I was like, you know what? I paid for all those other studies. I might as well go finish it. So, so after those 5 years, I was pretty high accomplished. I had like 3 degrees and about 7, 8 diplomas. I forget what I had, but yeah, I just kept upping my visa and signing up to colleges so I can get the student visa. But yeah, after 5 years, they were like, "Yeah, we're not giving you any more visas, bro."
It's incredible. I mean, you're hands down one of the most learned men in the industry. Not just learned when it comes to the technical knowledge of wrestling, but also, you have a lot of degrees under your belt, a lot of diplomas under your belt, which makes you stand out from everybody else. Speaking of standing out, you debuted in the WWE. You showed up and you stood out from the very beginning. But before we even start talking about that, I've heard that in the very first year of yours in the company, you wrestled like 301 shows in a year of 365 days. I don't know how that is physically possible. How did you do it?
I mean, if you're young in your early 20s, that's actually fun. Again, I don't have a family to go back to. Some of the other guys who had families to go back to, it was tough. It was a hard life. I remember me and Heath, he was my travel buddy. He's like my brother, like those 300 days that we spent on the road, we spent in the same car, we shared a hotel room. So that's why I know him better than anybody, and but that's another story. But yeah, it was tough, but it was fun. I don't know how people do it anymore. I know the schedules have changed, and it changes every year, it seems. But it was awesome. I enjoyed it. I don't think I can do it again now at this stage of my life. But at that time, it was that was living the dream. That was the ultimate.
Beautiful. And before you showed up to the main roster, you were at FCW, and there you worked with people like Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Alex Riley, Heath Slater. So I'm just wondering, out of all the people that you worked with at FCW, did you have this feeling about anyone over there that, hey, that guy, this guy is going to be a megastar in the business one day?
Oh, there's quite a few. I mean, so many to name. I mean, later on, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, all those guys came in too. And I mean, as soon as those guys came in, I knew it. You could just tell. Wyndham, Bray Wyatt. I mean, since day one, like the kid, it was his first day. He's never even been in a wrestling ring, but just watching him like figure stuff out, I was like, wow, this guy just gets it. Like, not a lot of people pick it up like that. He was just super talented. But again, he was born into the business, so.
Right, absolutely. And not to sound like a narcissist, but I'm pretty sure, I mean, if I'd seen you, I would know that this guy's going to be a mega star. When you looked into the mirror, did you have the same feeling about yourself?
So, this is going to kind of sound narcissistic too, right? But as a younger kid, I was, like decently looking, and at the time, wrestlers were all like grizzled. Now it's the other way around, right? But like back then, I was like the pretty boy. Like, there was Shawn Michaels, there was a couple of indie people here and there, and it was PJ Black in South Africa, like the 16-year-old pretty boy. I think I saw a PWI interview the other day where they took a photo of me and Leonardo DiCaprio at the time, and anyway. So it was easy for me to get bookings and to do things and to get jobs and to like life was kind of like easy. So in my mind, I was like, wow, I'm going to get signed. That should be easy, because I'm one of a kind. I'm very unique. But when I got to FCW, everybody there was like really good workers, really good looks. They had cool gear. Everyone checked all those boxes, and I was like, whoa, okay, I'm not the top guy anymore. I'm like maybe here I got to prove myself. And everyone was massive too, so it took me a while. I remember when I got there, everyone kind of just looked at me and they're like, who the hell is this kid? And they, everyone tried to bully me, try to be mean until I had my first match. And then everybody wanted to be my friend.
Beautiful, Paige. So after FCW, you also appeared on season 1 of NXT, and later you also, appeared on the Black and Gold brand of NXT, which was a revamped NXT. Now, how would you compare those 2 seasons of NXT to the new revamped NXT 2.0? How would you compare those shows?
I mean, it's like 3 different companies, really, if you think about it, right? 3 different products, like when we started, it was supposed to be a reality show where we all live in a house, kind of like the Ultimate Fighter, like UFC, right? It was supposed to be like that, but like things happen and it moves so quickly. Like 2 days out, they're like, wait a minute, we don't have anything planned. We don't have a house. We don't have a set. We don't have anything, So they just ran it like a kind of like a wrestling show with these stupid competitions that we had to do, and they were all live on the fly and stuff like that. So that's why I think we messed it up so bad that they had to script the following seasons, And after the seasons, it actually became its own brand. Like NXT, you know, what Hunter did with it is pretty cool. Whether you like it or not, I think it's pretty cool. I'm not too sure about this 2.0 stuff. Like, that logo looks terrible. You know, I'm all about colors. Like, people who know me, I wear colorful stuff in real life and in the ring, but that logo just doesn't do anything for me, man.
This looks too colorful. So,
yeah.
So if you were to think about the first season of NXT, when they told you, you know, the plan, when they told you it was supposed to be like a reality show, did you have this feeling from the very beginning that this is going to be a terrible idea, or did it just, you know, you get the realization later on?
That's a good question. I never thought about that. I mean, I didn't really think that it was a good or bad idea. I was just like, wow, I get to wrestle on TV. Woo! That's all I care about.
That's beautiful. Every professional wrestler, they love wrestling. You know, you give them wrestling, they love it. It's awesome. So after NXT, we know that, you know, NEXUS happened. And before we get to any of the questions about NEXUS, you know, I would like to play a little game with you, a game that I like to call Aged Like Milk or Wine, where I'm going to give you a few names that, you know them in person, and I want you to tell them if they age like milk or wine. Okay?
Okay.
Right, so let's begin. I'm going to start off with the big one, Wade Barrett.
Ooh, that's funny. I'm going to have to say, oh, wow, that's a tough one. Probably milk, because he's not wrestling, but if you look at his commentary, wine.
Cool. Michael Traver.
I mean, I don't think he wrestles anymore, but I mean, that guy's like a fine wine. He's got some cool stuff happening this year, and I mean, he's a wonderful musician. If you like rap music, check his stuff out. My current intro song is done by him. Wow. Big up to Traver. What a legend, man. I love that guy.
The NEXUS family sticks together. That's incredible. What about Darren Young?
Darren Young? Oh, wine. Fine wine for sure.
Okay, and David Otunga?
Fine wine also. Funny story, when I had to get my a lot of people think that David Otunga's degree, he has a Harvard law degree, right? And when I had to get my green card, I had to get 3 people to write me letters, and he wrote me a letter, and that, you know, solidified my green card in the United States. So I'll be forever grateful to him. Also, I had his first 2 ever wrestling matches, his first 2. And what a stand-up guy. I love the guy, man. You'll never see him mad or angry or anything like that. And I mean, he's just in better shape now than ever. So, I mean, he's aging like a wine.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that story. What about Mason Ryan? I know you guys were, you know, in the WWE, you guys were against each other, but what about Mason Ryan?
I mean, he's doing well. Aging like a fine wine. I mean, he is in a very popular Vegas show. It's called, it's one of the Cirque du Soleil shows. And if anyone finds themselves in Vegas, that show is awesome. Definitely check it out. And yeah, he's a good dude.
Okay, and I know this one is definitely wine. I can say it myself. Heath Slater. I mean, he's in the best shape of his career right now. So good.
Oh yeah, I love that guy. He's like my brother. I love him. He had a signing in LA the other day, and we got to hang out for the first time in over 2 years. So that was awesome.
Awesome. You got it down to the last 3 now. Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson?
I mean, I think he's doing well, right? Didn't he just sign with AEW? So I guess he's aging fine, like a wine.
Right there. What about the most beloved CM Punk?
He made a comeback too, right? So I mean, he's CM Punk. What can you say about him? He's a euro too many. What a fantastic guy! I actually ran into him in LA at a dog park. I go to the dog park every day. He's probably gonna hate me for telling this story, but who cares? Him and AJ adopted a puppy, and they were running around the park. And yeah, so random, right? Like LA's such a big city.
Well, you probably shouldn't be telling that story because we know that fans stalk him at airports and he hates it. And now fans are going to be stalking him at dog park. Okay.
But he doesn't live in LA. I think he was just here for a meeting or something.
Okay, so covering it up now. I get it. So, last one now, EJ, and this is a guy that fans have mixed reactions to. People don't know how to react to this person. You know, he was a monster in the WWE, and talking about Ryback. What do you think about Ryback?
Oh, yeah, poor guy didn't age well. What was it, Milk? Yeah. Poor guy. Going out of his mind. It's just super ironic that he used to always fight these trolls online, and now he became a troll online himself.
That is right. Do you ever see him getting back to the squared circle for any promotion out
No, no. I think his body is shattered. Like I mean, I can tell you some stories how I know. Like I'm a legit doctor. Actually, not many people know that, and the stuff that he's done to his body is just irreversible. Unfortunately, he tries to cover it up with all these stem cells and healthy living. I don't know what. Every week it's a different diet with him and this and that. I mean, I love the guy, but he needs to just listen to people that are smarter than him.
And I know that you yourself have undergone stem cell therapy. You're a firm believer in holistic medicine. Yourself, you do a lot of meditation, breathing exercise, keto, which I believe Ryback is not a big fan of.
Yeah, because he could never get his body into ketosis. I mean, it changed my life. It's really hard. It's really, really hard. But once you get over that threshold, man, it'll change your life. It's not very sustainable if you're living on the road and stuff like that. But it's a tool to use in health. You can lose weight really quickly. But for me, my favorite thing about it is your body runs on two different energy systems, right? It runs on carbs, glucose, or ketones, which is metabolized from fat. So if you just eat a lot of fats and you don't get a lot of glucose, you don't get a lot of insulin spikes, your body releases ketones, and your brain prefers ketones. Like, you'll know when you're in ketosis, your brain is next level. So it's wonderful for like when I'm studying or reading, or if I do a lot of mental work, it really is fantastic. It puts you on a completely different level. So if anyone out there struggles with like brain fog and all these things, give it a go.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Peter. Thank you. Now, we were speaking about Nexus, and a lot of fans online, especially, they blame John Cena for the downfall of Nexus. How much do you agree with that statement?
I mean, you can't deny it, right? But at the time, it's also on us, because we should have stood up for ourselves. We should have handled things differently. So, I mean, you can look at it 1,000 different ways, but it's in the books. It happened the way it happened, and there's no way we can change it. We can everyone's angry at it. Like, even he's angry at it that, years later, but we all make mistakes.
But would you blame John Cena for it, or would you blame, the creative or the people behind the scenes for it?
I mean, a little bit of everything. Like, if I had to blame someone, I'd probably blame myself, or like blame us, because I should have just stood up. Like, I mean, I was a kid. I was a child. I was like a 20-something-year-old child. I was just like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. That sounds cool. But like now, I'm like, no, this is what we're gonna do.
Absolutely. So, after what happened with Cena and the Nexus, CM Punk took over Nexus, and you guys walked away and formed the Corre. And when the Corre was formed, did you have any expectations from the new faction? Did the creative even have a long-term vision for the group at all?
That's a great question. No, they didn't. They didn't have anything. They literally just threw us in there with new T-shirts. The first show, cut a promo on something, and we weren't sure if we were good guys, bad guys, what we were supposed to do. I don't think they knew either. I don't think they cared. I mean, and I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. No one's giving us any direction. Nobody's telling us anything. So I'm just going to do random stuff. And we all know how that turned out.
And recently you sent out this very tweet where you gave credit to Heath for the formation of Corre. Can you tell us what is the backstory behind this? This tweet really took me by surprise.
Oh, I mean, I was just messing. So for a few different reasons, because it really pisses Wade off, and he was put on this planet to piss him off in a good way. Like we're bickering like brothers. Also, Wade once told a story because everyone gave us shit for Corre being spelled wrong, spelled with 2 R's, right? And everybody knows people from West Virginia cannot spell. So we kind of put the blame on Heath. We told everyone, we made up the story where Heath went to the registrar's office and he misspelled the word, So whenever me and Heath can get some jabs in on Wade, we'll do it.
That is hilarious. Yeah, it's all Heath Slater's fault. I love it. Shortly before you left the WWE, I've heard that Triple H, he did not approve of your ideas, particularly the wolf-themed persona of yours that you suggested to him. Now, looking back at all that happened and they didn't approve of it, are you glad that they did not? Because if they did, you wouldn't have been able to use it outside of the WWE. So how do you feel about this whole thing looking back at it?
That's true, and that's a good point. They initially they liked it. Vince really liked it,
Okay.
and I think Hunter maybe just, if you know him, he's like 1 week he'll like something, 1 week he won't. He's kind of sometimes he also just sees how you respond to certain things.
That's right.
Like most crazy CEOs. Not that he's the CEO, but if you work with a lot of big companies, you know how this works. So I think they trademarked it and everything, but we never actually used it on TV. So when I did leave, I forgot how I came across the copyright website, but I typed it in and it said it was going to be abandoned within a week. So I was like, wow. So I'll just copyright it myself, and now I own the rights to it. So if I ever go back there, we'll definitely use that.
Love it. So it's the stars aligned for you. The trademark got abandoned in a week, just in time for you. That's awesome. That is great. So, when you left the WWE in 2015, we got to see the true PJ Black. And in the very same year, you wrestled, I believe, in more than 26 promotions. You won titles. You became the first ever GFW Nexgen Champion. So, how did it feel? Because this was the first time of yours exploring the North American independent circuit. So, how did it feel for you to not just explore that circuit, but also dominate it and take it by storm in such a way?
Thanks for that. That's awesome. I was actually thinking about that the other day. How many promotions that I work for? But yeah, it was great because growing up in South Africa and then going to the UK, I never had a chance to work indies in the US, and I've always wanted to. That's what I always wanted to do. I remember when I was 16, I was actually trying to get into the US so I can work indies. I just never could get a visa, and then I tried Japan. I was going to go to the dojo. I just couldn't get a visa. I was going to go to Germany. I tried all these things between the age of 16 and 19. My dad passed away when I was 18, and I just couldn't get anywhere. That's why I ended up getting the visa for the UK. I was like, that's where I'll go. So it was really fun for me, being on the indies. I had a whole list of people I wanted to wrestle and promotions, and it was kind of like the handcuffs came off, and it's kind of like for lack of a better term, you're brainwashed or you're engineered to work a certain style and follow a certain way of doing things. So now I had complete freedom, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna let loose. And it was awesome. I remember one of my first indie shows. It was really hard to impress some of the fans. Like the worst thing in wrestling is people just sit on their hands. I mean, they can boo, that's great. They can cheer, even better. But sitting on their hands is the worst. And I remember these kids in the front row, and they all were wearing Bullet Club shirts at the time. It's like 2015 or something, 2016. And it was just so hard. Anything I did, they kind of just like looked at me, and I was like, all right. And I forget what it was, but I call it the indie comeback. And I just ran 2 rounds of that, and all of them like kind of stood up, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm gonna have to do on the indies, but I'm down with it.
Wow, that's great. Started from the scratch, but you had such a great run with all these promotions. You gave us very, very memorable matches with Shikara, Lucha Underground, NWA, of course, ROH, all these promotions. So if this doesn't cause any problems, can you tell us which one promotion has been an absolute pleasure for you to work with?
I mean, they all stand out for different reasons. I don't think that the vibe at Lucha Underground will ever be duplicated ever again. It wasn't a wrestling promotion. It was a TV company with some wrestling on. So we were treated like that. We were treated like we were on set. Like you didn't have to do your own boots and your own wrist tape. There were people doing it for you. It was great. But not only that, the vibe was cool. The people were awesome. Like we all, after every single show, we all like helped each other out. We all talked. Every night we sat on the same balcony, all of us, like the whole roster. That feeling of family, like that'll never ever be duplicated again. That was awesome. But every promotion stands out for different reasons.
Absolutely. And I was just talking about which promotion was a pleasure for you, and I can tell just by knowing your story and having this little conversation with you that you must, and I'm pretty sure you are always a pleasure for people and promotions to work with. And PJ, not only do you stand out from the wrestlers in terms of your wrestling skills, but just like I said earlier, the fact that you're so learned, you have master's degree in sports science, nutrition, you've got like, I know you did like 3 diplomas just in the quarantine period itself, and you like to read books, you do yoga, you do all the meditation, so much stuff. It makes you stand out. And truly, I believe as somebody that everybody should look up to, a wrestler everyone should look up to.
Oh, wow. Thank you for those kind words, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's too nice of you.
And I know that you want to help other people, and that is why you're also writing your own book. Can you tell us what is the progress in the book, and when can we expect for it to come out?
Oh, I was hoping this year, but I had to put that on hold. I just got so much stuff happening right now. It's on biohacking. There'll be a lot of techniques in it, like the breathing techniques that I use, and a lot of the techniques that I've invented myself and that I've learned uh, over the years, which it's really hard to find on books and on the internet. You'd think that you'd be able to find anything on the internet these days, but you gotta search because there's so much crap on there too. So I just wanted to compile it, especially just the easy breathing techniques for people. I mean, everyone deals with anxiety and stress, and those are the easiest ones really to get rid of with breathing techniques. If for any video gamers out there, I always tell people that breathing techniques, it's like the cheat codes to life. Like, in the video games, you put in all these cheat codes to get better scores or weapons or whatever. Breathing will change your life. I promise you. There's so many different ones. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've experienced some of that, right? In India, like my best friend, his name's Guru Kali. I got to give Guru a shout out. He's taught me some amazing techniques, some breathing and some kriya, and
Oh, yeah.
some yoga poses and everything. So it definitely changed my life.
Me and my family, every single evening, we sit down and we do yoga. So a lot of breathing, anilom vilom, and all these different yoga postures about breathing really helps us a lot.
I
So
love that.
definitely, oh, absolutely, PJ. But before I let you go, it's been such a fun conversation. But time flies. It's been 25 years, and it's been 31 minutes right now. Time flies. But before I let you go, I just want to ask you two questions that I know fans across the world want to know the answers to. So, question number one. You chose to go to ROH over a NXT contract a few years ago. If given an opportunity to come back to the WWE, would you do it?
Uh, Never say never. I have
Okay.
actually been contemplating it lately, but
Okay.
it'll be hard. It'll. I mean, if the stars align and they give me the things that I want and need, then definitely yes. But I mean, not very likely. But you never say never.
That's right. Never say never. And now, number two. So you've said it in the past, it's no secret. You've said it that you'll never go to All Elite Wrestling because of an individual. Now it's been 2 years since you first made that comment, and in these years they have made some development. They've created a buzz. Uh, has your stance changed on possibly joining AEW? Would you reconsider your decision in the future?
You know what? I actually reconsidered it about 3 days ago, and I was with my good friend John Morrison, and his 90 days is up very soon. So, I mean, we don't really have any plans, but we were in the ring working on some stuff and, cutting some fun promos and see what we can come up with and doing some movement exercises. And that came up because he really wants to do something there. So I was like, I'll be open to that if we do something together. I mean, that's also not set in stone. We might do something together. We might not. We might bring back Worldwide Underground. I mean, that will be freaking awesome since nobody owns the rights to those names. I mean, that's some fun stuff that we can do with that. But yeah, we don't really have a plan, but he did convince me to be open to that. And I was like, okay.
I just got goosebumps. I'm not gonna lie, I just got goosebumps. The fact that we could be seeing John and yourself in AEW maybe on the same night debuting together. This could be a spoiler. Thank you so much, PJ. Absolutely, it was a pure joy talking to you. And once again, I must say, I find you an inspiration. I mean, you went through so much, just from South Africa all the way to America, life-threatening injury. You said no to painkillers, no to drugs. You took on yoga. You left alcohol behind. You teach people the importance of breathing exercises, all good things in life, and you want to educate kids in South Africa about wrestling and build up a future generation of wrestlers in South Africa. You are an inspiration, and literally every single upcoming generation of wrestlers should be aspired to be like you and should look up to you. Thank you so much, PJ.
Oh, thank you for those words. I have nothing else to say. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I deeply mean it. Thank you so much, PJ. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I can't wait to talk to you soon, maybe when we're all elite. Thank you. Thanks.